again, everybody. Lance Russell and Dave Brown right along ringside. By golly, we're about ready to go with more big action.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Georgia Championship Wrestling. I'm Gordon Soler, your host, and we have quite an hour in store for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Championship Wrestling at ringside. This is Vince McMahon, along with wrestling's only living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, another outstanding card.
Hey, guys, and welcome back to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. I am Ray Russell, and ask and ye shall receive, guys. It's more Memphis 1985 this week with the guest. The host with the most is Ray Russell. The co-host with the most would have to be Mean Gene. Woo! Gene Jackson. Welcome back, Gene.
Good to be here, Ray. It's always good to revisit Memphis wrestling in 1985. And as we left everyone last time, it looked as though we had some excitement ahead with Bruiser Brody coming to town.
Yeah, we had a lot of excitement last time. In fact, we're going to do what we always do at the top of the show in just a moment, guys. We're going to recap last week in the Memphis territory, and boy, was it a doozy. Found out some things, Gene, didn't we?
We certainly did. Certainly did.
Certainly, we're going to find out some more things here this week. Things just never stay the same here in Memphis. Every week is like another month has passed us by. And so I can't wait to see what's changed since last Monday night in the Coliseum. As we get going, lots to talk about, so we'll get right into it. First, I guess this got away from us with all the other excitement going on in the territory. All this craziness about us, guys. It appears we have lost one Iron Mike Sharp from the territory.
Oh, okay.
That's terrible news. He has left us for a tour of New Japan. I wonder how he figured that one out. And listen to this as I went, and I was just curious. Who did Mike work with on this tour of New Japan? He teams with the likes of the Superfly Jimmy Snuka, Bob Backlund, Andre the Giant, and the current WWF champion just after WrestleMania, guys, Hulk Hogan and Iron Mike Sharp. What a difference. Mike Sharp goes from wrestling Jerry Oski, Constance and Ashley, to wrestling against the likes of Tatsumi Fujinami and Antonio fucking Inoki.
Wow, you talk about a different world. My goodness. And how did that get away from us? You know, we didn't even acknowledge previously that Iron Mike had went away, and there he's over there teaming with superstars in Japan. Good for Iron Mike.
Good for him. He pulled the Jimmy Valiant and got the hell out of Dodge, and I can't say that I blame him. You talk about an upgrade. I'm sure he got paid well, because they paid okay over there in Japan from what I understand. So I'm sure he got paid a little more than he was getting here from Jerry, Jarrett, and crew. So good for Iron Mike. We know he'll eventually pop up in New York, and he'll be there for a very long time to come.
Yeah, he settles in for the long haul there, but he will be missed here in Memphis.
Yeah, he was a fun time. Thanks again one more time for Iron Mike Sharp, everyone.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Gonna miss that soundbite. We'll continue to try to use it.
That soundbite.
We will. And I can't wait for him to pop back up in my grenade show here soon. But new matchmaker Tom Ernesto came out last week and made a proclamation, damn it. No more disqualification finishes here in Memphis. Well, I can't wait to see how long that lasts. Well, oh, wait, it was over immediately. No more run-ins, he promised. No more saves, as he called them, and plenty of 2 out of 3 fall matches. All of those immediately proven to be a bag of lies.
Just the most Memphis stuff ever, right? I mean, where you come out and make nonsense announcements that immediately you go against them in the very next segment. Just so strange, but not unheard of, but just strange.
Extremely strange. And as I pointed out last time we were talking, Gene, it's not like he was an on-air character and he was forced to go out there and say these things and had no control over them. He was, in fact, the booker at this point in time, and he knew what was going to happen in the next segment, and he still came out there and did that promo, so it makes it all the more confusing.
Yeah, you think of the guy sitting down writing the show and like, all right, now in this segment, I'm going to go out and I'm going to announce that we're not going to have any more DQs, and we're not going to have any more interference, we're not going to have any more of this, we're not going to have any more of that. Okay, guys, I need something for the next segment. What do we want to do? Well, let's have some interference in the first fall and the second fall. And like you just turn around and go against everything you just wrote in the previous segment. Like you said, if it was contradictory because someone else was writing it and he was just having to carry it out, it's one thing. But he's writing it, then performing it, and then going against it immediately. It's just head-scratching.
The one thing he did promise and deliver was, unfortunately, a 2 out of 3 falls match between the PYTs and Constance and Ashley. Yes, the never-ending match. They just kept restarting that first fall. It felt like, anyway. I thought it would never end, but it finally did.
Because by God, Ray, they took a survey, a nationwide survey,
yeah.
what fans in Memphis want to see, and it was more 2 out of 3 falls matches, obviously.
Got to ask the people of Portland, what do you want to see in Memphis? And they
what
spoke.
do you want the Memphis people to have to watch?
That explains it. Everybody was ribbing.
Fuck them guys. Let them watch 2 out of 3 falls matches. That's what they can watch.
Well, it appeared on TV last week that the Fabulous Ones may have injured the shoulder of one Coco Ware, and subbing in his place, the latest member, perhaps, of the PYT, at least an honorary PYT, it appeared, the emergence of Billy Travis as not only a heel now, but immediately shoots up the card from a job guy to teaming with the tag team champions, only in Memphis.
Man, talk about a promotion, from babyface job guy to part of the tag team champions, the third member of the tag team champions there. That's a hell of a boost from old Renesto for Billy Travis.
Yeah, he must like what he sees in Billy Joe, and we know he's going to do some things moving forward, but it's just so interesting how quickly he ascended from, again, enhancement talent to hanging out with the tag team champs. And he's not even in that goofy role where you hire that Stevie Richards flunky type guy. This is like serious Billy Travis. He's immediately getting some type of a push. So it's just kind of peculiar, but I'm not against it.
No, I was always a fan of Billy Travis, but we got to keep in mind, this is 1985 Billy Travis.
Right.
And as we're going to see a little later in the show, they put a microphone in his face, and this wasn't the Billy Travis of the late 80s, early 90s.
He doesn't have that guitar yet. He needs his confidence booster.
He needed something.
Well, he gets something. We're going to talk about that later on. And you coined a phrase last week, or maybe a couple episodes ago now, but we had them damn Dudleys once upon a time, thanks to Jim Ross, and now thanks to Gene Jackson, we have them poor bastard Battens. As they drew the luck of competing against 2 of the nuttiest men in wrestling history, the Macho Man and Dr. D last week. Now, obviously, week after week, they've had bad luck out here, but it just, can it get worse than the Macho Man and Dr. D?
Whew, don't say that, Ray. Every time we've said, well, it can't get much worse than that, then they top themselves the following episode. So I would hate to know what could be worse than that, but I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it can't be just for their sake after the fact.
Well, I don't want to look ahead. I don't remember when I reviewed this and wrote my notes down. I don't remember seeing the Battens on this show. Now, I could be wrong, but maybe they were finally given a week off. And if so, God bless them for that. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they're going to get the shit beat out of them, and I just wanted to put it out of the back of my mind. But we'll have to wait and see, guys, as we continue on. Also, it would appear that Jarrett, the promoter here of Jarrett Promotions and the CWA, of course, Memphis Rasslin, is out of retirement and back in the ring reuniting with his former partner, one Tojo Yamamoto. Tojo likened Jarrett's retirement to when Jerry Lawler lost Sam Bass to a car accident, because apparently Jarrett retiring equals Sam Bass's death, at least to Tojo.
What a weird analogy.
Yes.
The boy Renesto knows what the fans want. They want 2 out of 3 falls matches, and they want Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto back together in the ring in 1985. He's got his finger on the pulse, Ray.
Well, we know they're hurting for baby faces right now. I feel like as much as it's a Renesto thing, this might be Jarrett saying, yeah, I guess I'll come out of retirement if that's going to help us draw a few extra people in the crowd, because they're hurting on the babyface side. We'll have to pay attention to that. But hey, we're trying to build stars here, because we, in fact, have a brand new Southern Heavyweight Champion. We talked about that at the end of last episode. It is not the King Jerry Lawler. It's not Dr. D. David Schultz. Nope, not Bruiser Brody either. In fact, it's not even Kareem Muhammad, but rather one Jerry Oski, who has dethroned the Macho Man as of last Tuesday night in the Louisville Gardens.
Yeah, I'm still kind of floored by that. I mean, they kind of foreshadow that could be in his future, in that sit-down interview with Lawler on the Jerry Lawler show. But,
right.
Man, it just can't. He's in the middle of a feud with, Lawler and Brody and Dr. D and all this stuff going on, and he's dominated the show for weeks now. And Jerry Oski pins him in the Louisville Gardens with what looked like Ron Jeremy as the referee, and it's just, I don't know, man, out of left field.
Yeah, I think that was Tom Branch, in fact, the son of Tom Renesto, which makes sense. Yeah, that's kind of peculiar that the title change happens in Louisville, not in Memphis. That's telling. Also, it's kind of interesting because you think about this, and I believe at one point Louisville was a week behind on the bicycle. And so for them to do it there first, it says, well, we'll have to wait and see what that says as we continue on. As mentioned, Bruiser Brody has in fact arrived here in Memphis, Tennessee, hired initially by Jerry Lawler to team up and take out the Macho Man Randy Savage and Dr. D last Monday at the Mid-South Coliseum. The ending saw what else but a wild brawl throughout the arena, but there's going to be more to the story as you guys will see later in this episode.
Yeah, there certainly is. It's an odd twist. I'm looking forward to discussing it.
Indeed. And lastly, Dr. D, David Schultz, taught us all that Jerry Lawler has a disease. Jerry Lawler has the AIDS. You got the AIDS, boy.
Well, trust a doctor.
Well, if anybody's going to give you a prognosis, it should be a doctor. Unfortunately, between the swastika t-shirts and the AIDS prognosis, it appears Dr. Schultz is no longer a wrestler here in the Memphis territory.
Man, that sucks. I knew that his stay was short-lived, but I wasn't thinking it was quite this short-lived. Yeah. There was more fun to be had here, but, Dr. D was a wild card in this era, and he didn't stay long, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd like to pretend if this was any other territory that was too over the top and he got fired and we could have fun with that and laugh at it with Dr. D, not at him. But it's Memphis, and so, for David Schultz not to be here this week, that was probably just a Dr. D call, I have to think.
Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah, he's just like, I don't think I'm digging this, and just moved on.
Holds up the paycheck, and he shows it to Jerry. Jarrett says, I think my paycheck has the AIDS. Something don't look right here. And
I ain't going to buy very many swastika shirts with this damn paycheck, boy.
I expect me to get another iron-on with this kind of... Oh, man. So lots going on, guys, and we'll talk a lot more about it here this week as we roll into TV for this week, heading off to Saturday morning, Channel 5 Studios, and more CWA Championship Wrestling. All right, it is in fact May the 11th, 1985. Lance and Dave right along ringside as we see the new Southern Heavyweight Champion, Jerry Oski, in the ring. The bell sounds, getting ready to take on the spoiler returns. That is indeed Frank Morrell, no doubt about that, under that hood over there. And the bell sounds once again. We've done this a few weeks in a row now. As soon as we cut to the studio, and we learn right away, they inform the fans who would not have known, Gene, that we, in fact, do have a new Southern champion. Jerry Oski beat the Macho Man. Could you imagine waking up Saturday morning, watching a few cartoons, you flip it over here, and all of a sudden Jerry Oski is your new Memphis champion?
I know. I'd have to turn the TV off and turn it back on and make sure I'm hearing that right, or this isn't a mistake. Gun to my head, if you've been like, who's going to be the next Southern champ, and it's not somebody you would think, if I just kind of ran up and down the roster, I still wouldn't have come up with Jerry Oski, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what, with Savage being a heel, I almost have to believe that Oski was the number 2 guy, but I don't, it's like Lawler's a tier of his own, and then everybody else is so much lower on the totem pole right now on the babyface side that, yeah, it's just unbelievable. Maybe one of the Fabs, I guess you would believe, but they're stuck in the tag team circuit right now. So Jerry Oski is in fact your new champion, but with the new title comes the same bland offense, guys. Headlocks o'plenty by Oski here. In fact, Frank Morrell gets so bored that he decides, I'm going to take over. As Lance shouts, Yowza!
Yowza! Head slammed into that top turnbuckle.
Yowza! He took Jerry Oski and rammed his head into the turnbuckle one time, guys, and that popped Lance for a Yowza for some unknown reason.
Yeah, I mean, Lance was known for a Yowza every now and then, but that one really felt out of place.
You think he was just trying to force it?
Like
get over Oski
shoehorn it in there.
Yeah, as the champion.
It would have been like if Mean Gene, if somebody just taps somebody's head in the turnbuckle. And
Oh, he hit him in the corner. Oh, my word.
One seemed to like settle down, Gene. Like,
Yeah, no kidding. Give me a
give me
chop.
a break.
Give me a break. Oh, so Oski going to try for the O'Connor role, the same movie beat the Macho Man with on Tuesday night in Louisville. But the spoiler holding onto the ropes, Oski going to take a nasty bump, but he immediately recovers into an inside cradle for the win. A small package on a, lower on the totem pole character in the spoiler. I wrote, what a definitive win for the brand new Southern champion. That'll get you over here on TV. Match goes 3 minutes and 26 seconds.
O'Connor roll, good enough to beat the Macho Man Randy Savage, but spoiler alert, not good enough to beat Frank Morrell.
Spoiler alert, not good enough to beat the spoiler. Exactly.
That felt, I was watching it, I was like, we just saw him beating Savage with it, or we're going to eventually.
Right. Yeah.
And it couldn't get it done against the spoiler here. We had to just get to a inside cradle. I don't know. It would look better if he would have got the win, but it's Memphis. We're not thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, nobody's back there giving him any insight. And I don't mean putting his match together for him. We didn't do that back then, guys, but somebody could have at least said, I want to see some fire out there today. Give him this, give him that. Do a drop. I don't know. You've seen Jerry try to throw a drop kick. I mean, he's getting bigger by the week, by the way, just to inform everybody. The steroids are certainly kicking in for one Jerry Oski here in 1985. And that's very evident based on not only his physique, but his hair just seems to be falling out at the same times. But it's just
very true.
New champion, youngster out here, and all he's doing is headlocks and inside cradles for the win. Just not going to get you over on top, guys. As we continue on, post-commercial break, we have an interview with the new Southern champ, Oski, talking to Lance Russell, and of course, still out of breath after that deadly inside cradle matchup, but he's getting better on the cardio. He's not breathing as hard this time, Gene, but he's looking more jacked up, like I said, and talks the Southern Heavyweight Championship of the world, because there's a Southern title of the world, guys. Of course there is. That's why they take national surveys for the local Memphis crowd. And he plans to hold this title for some time to come. I wrote in my notes, very bland interview, much like his wrestling match. Not so good, but at least it was quick. We also see a clip here, the finish of the matchup between Savage and Jerry Oski, where he wins the title.
Yeah, calling that interview bland is being kind. Talking is certainly not a strong suit.
No.
Not that the wrestling side of it is either necessarily, but that was hard to get through. But in his defense, Randy Savage has referred to that as a Southern Heavyweight Championship of the world a few different times. So maybe he thinks that's what he's supposed to call it in Memphis. I don't know.
Well, it's been called that since Jerry got here, I suppose, so it's possible. Speaking of Randy Savage, he's out here next for action. The former Southern champion with Tux Newman by his side. The Macho Man's opponent, one Steve Constance. And I thought, man, he's going to come out here fired up. He's going to beat the shit out of Steve Constance after losing that title. But Macho Man seems to be calm out here in a very nice robe, but sans the belt. Savage controls early on, but loses focus and gets plowed through the ropes by Constance. Not quite sure if that was on purpose or not, but back inside, Steve Constance with a sunset flip on Randy, going to get a 2 count. And it's on now. Comeback time for the Macho Man, sending Constance out of the ring, flying outside for the double axe handle off the top rope, then ramming Steve's head into the wooden door out there. Got to bring him back in with a suplex over the top rope from the apron and the diving elbow. Thanks for coming, Steve. Randy Savage going over just like that. This one only goes 2 minutes and 36 seconds.
I got a little nervous the way that it started out. I'm like, okay, are we going into a story here where Savage is off his game and even Steve Constance can start to kind of get the better of him? But no, we shut that shit down pretty quick.
He certainly did. He did give him a couple moves up early, then Randy wasn't having none of it. Even post-match, having a little extra curricular fun here, slamming Constance on the studio floor and just dropping an elbow for good measure on the outside because madness, guys. That's all I can say.
I enjoyed that. I was totally on board for that.
Yeah, I'm sure Steve Constance was not, but he didn't really have much of an option. Definitely felt like an audible called by Randy Savage. He's standing in my way. What am I going to do? I'm going to get him out of my way. I'm going to do it macho style. And that's exactly what he does. And he picks up a win here over one half of the Constance and Ashley tag team, who up until now were not doing jobs, especially on TV.
No, they certainly weren't. And I guess the balance is one of them's going to be in, I guess you would call it the main event, the expiration of time match. So
sure.
that's not necessarily the main event spot because we know who usually occupies that spot, but it's last.
Well, we saw the Macho Man in action. We know he lost his belt. Now we're going to hear from him and manager Tux Newman, still in a neck brace, by the way. They claim a fast count by the prejudiced referee when Jerry Oski pinned Randy Savage Tuesday night. But there's no reason for panic, guys, because there's a return clause. Tux will have you know. I wrote, isn't there always a return clause?
Yeah, I guess the Tux man's just trying to seem like he's got some value to Macho Man there in case he didn't realize there's always a return clause on title matches.
Maybe I can trick him into thinking I know what I'm doing out here. Macho Man says the odds were a zillion trillion to one. A fluke, he calls it, as Jerry Oski got lucky. But don't start mailing the cards announcing the title change yet, guys, because by the time you get it in the mailbox, Macho Man says he will be champion once again. I do like that line there from Randy Savage.
Yeah, that was fun. And, those odds, zillion trillion to one's probably pretty accurate as far as what most people thought when they sit down in their seat in Louisville to watch that title match.
Yeah, I would have said the odds of going half an hour were a zillion trillion to one, much less Oski coming out the champion on top of all of that. Talk about a shocker for the night there in Louisville, but well, we'll see what happens here because we're going to have return matches. The clause is in fact in play, as we know. So the Macho Man promising to be champion before you send out those postcards announcing the title change. So don't bother doing it, guys. Save that stamp as we go back to the ring for Kareem Muhammad, the Zambui Express, taking on David Haskins. Haskins upsetting Kareem at the bell because he's moving, dodging, sticking and moving early on. And Kareem just can't seem to get a hold of David. But eventually that big Zambui catching up to Haskins, tossing him outside and hitting him with a chair. Well, that'll teach you, Dave. Back inside, though, Haskins dropped across that top rope, and Kareem Muhammad with a diving whale headbutt. The match goes 143. And guys, I'm not trying to mock Ray Candy's size here. If you go back and actually watch these matches, the way he lands these headbutts looks like a diving whale, does it not, Gene?
It does. That was one thing that always stood out to me is like, that is such a unique way to give a diving headbutt the way he would apply that. Perfect. I never thought of it in that way, but now that you said it, that's a perfect analogy.
Well, you can see it. It's not here in my notes. I just thought of it earlier today when I was like, what would you call that? And I go, it looks like a whale when they jump out of the ocean and they kind of do the splash on their side. That's how Kareem would land the headbutt. I think only Mr. Fuji. It's the only other person I've seen. It must be wanting to take a bump on your back or on the back of your shoulder rather than, I guess, a front bump is the only way I would imagine the reason for that type of diving headbutt. But again, it just looked like a giant fucking whale just smashing poor David Haskins in a quick win. Kareem Muhammad quietly destroying the competition here under 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that about the shoulder because that was my takeaway from it. Was like, man, that looks like that'd be rough as hell on your shoulder, landing all your weight on the side on your side like that. But then again, my thought was maybe his knees. At this point, Ray Candy's been in the business for quite a while, and he's been dropping some splashes. So maybe the knees were getting to the point where he really couldn't take the impact on them. So put it on the shoulder, I guess.
Yeah, good call. So Kareem Muhammad is here. He hasn't done a whole lot yet, but that's going to change very quickly here, guys, as you will see. Right now, though, we go back to the ring for the King. Jerry Lawler out here taking on Big Lou Winston. Is this not the first time we've seen Big Lou here in 1985?
I want to say we've seen him like at least one other time, but it was nothing really significant. But I do, because it caught me whenever we saw him before, how much lighter he was than I remember him being during the Memphis Vice days. Yeah. And I want to say he actually randomly teamed with Jerry Bryant, because I remember making some reference like, hey, it's the Memphis Vice before the Memphis Vice.
That kind of sounds vaguely familiar. It's been, earlier in the year. Absolutely. I kind of remember that now. Yeah. Indeed. Good call. And he's still pretty trim here for Lou Winston anyway. And he's going to jump Jerry Lawler from behind, which was kind of shocked me. And Jerry actually going to sell for Big Lou, taking some punches in the corner. It looks like Lawler might make the comeback, reversing an Irish whip. But Big Lou bouncing out of the corner, hitting a nice clothesline, taking the King down. I wrote, wow, all right. But Jerry Lawler has had enough, and he drops the strap. One big punch drops Lou. Slam him in place for the middle rope fist drop. Match only goes 1 minute and 7 seconds. I thought we'd get a few minutes out of this the way Lou Winston came in hot. Lawler even taking that nice clothesline spot, but that strap dropped and we knew it was over.
Yeah, it's funny when I was watching this. I was like, wow, are we going to start pushing Lou Winston a little bit here? And it was like, all of a sudden, Jerry Lawler had this moment of clarity like, oh, shit, this is Lou Winston. And it just stops selling and just ends it like within a couple of moments there. But for a fleeting moment, Big Lou Winston was looking pretty good here.
Didn't look too bad. I guess Lawler figured if I got to put this gear on, I'm going to at least take a couple bumps out here. I mean, I'm sure that would change over the times, but not so much here this week. Made Lou Winston look okay for about 30 seconds, and that's more than he got most of the time back in this time period. So good for Lou Winston and fun Jerry Lawler squash. As we go back in time to Monday night, Mid-South Coliseum, VTR, we don't see the action between Lawler and Brody versus Schultz and Savage, but we see what happens after the match, which turned into a big schmoz, a big brawl around ringside, all four men, the heels running off, and Bruiser Brody grabbing the microphone. And he turns on the King. Imagine that. He says Jerry Lawler paid him to be his partner because the King couldn't take care of Savage and Schultz himself, randomly calling Lawler yellow at this point and attacking the King, straight up mollywhopping Jerry Lawler here, tossing referees Jerry Calhoun and Tom Branch out to the floor, leaving Jerry Lawler bloodied for a moment. But the King finally fires up, making a comeback on his own, series of big right hands rocking Brody. But out comes Kareem Muhammad joining in, attacking Lawler from behind. The heels double beatdown on the King, diving headbutt once again from Kareem on Lawler as Brody goes for a chair and the King left laying.
What an interesting way to go into this, right? You know, Brody comes to town and he's Lawler's partner, and it's not necessarily unique to turn heel on Jerry Lawler in Memphis,
Sure.
but to be his partner to completion and then turn in the midst of a mic spiel afterwards is definitely different. But then again, Bruiser Brody's a different dude, right?
Yeah, and you know, I would see something like this repeated many years later. When I saw this in this footage when we were covering it, made me think of when Terry Funk turned on Bob Armstrong, I believe after a match with the Gangstas in Smoky Mountain. I believe that was the matchup. And following the match, Terry immediately turns on Bob Armstrong because I don't like you either. I didn't like you to begin with, but I hated these Gangstas more. But now that we've gotten rid of them, now it's on between us. And that was kind of Brody here. But we lose Savage and Dr. D as a team. Savage is going to go off to deal with Jerry Oski. Dr. D is going to go down the road and maybe catch a criminal or two. I don't know what he was doing after this, but we have a brand new tag team on the heel side, and you go from Savage and Dr. D to Brody and Kareem Muhammad. So things are still looking good for the heel side here in Memphis.
Yeah, definitely. And Jerry Lawler's going to be in need of a partner here.
He is
right?
indeed.
Who in the world would Jerry Lawler call if he needed a partner in Memphis?
Man, there's so many names we could talk about, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. But right now, we're going to go backstage after that debacle at the Coliseum. We're going to interview Lance Russell talking with Bruiser Brody and Kareem Muhammad.
We just had the opportunity to see one of the most devastating matches that we have ever seen in the Mid-South Coliseum. Absolutely, I got to tell you, I've never seen action like it. We are talking about the appearance of Bruiser Brody here in Memphis for the very first time. Now, we're here to try to find out. You came in here as Lawler's partner, and before the night was over with, you're up there challenging, beating on Lawler.
Let me tell you something about Bruiser Brody. I've been all over the world, and I beat him up everywhere I went. I beat him up. And everywhere I went, I heard one thing that was always in the back of my head. Memphis, Tennessee, the king of professional wrestling, Jerry Lawler. I hear it everywhere. Well, let me tell you something, and let me tell you something. I came here as Jerry Lawler's partner.
That's right.
And I upheld my end of the deal like an honest man. I went out there, I kicked the dog out of David Schultz and Randy Pretty Boy Savage. I held my end of the deal up like a real man. Right?
Yeah, you did.
So nobody's got no gripe coming. But let me tell you something. Jerry Lawler got you all fooled. Or made a fool out of all you. Take it any way you want. Well, he ain't got me fooled. And I ain't no fool. Let me tell you something about Lawler. He beat up a lot of good men, a lot of big men. But he ain't never beaten me up. And that means he ain't the king of professional wrestling. Let me give you the definition of a king. It's a man who sits up on the throne with his chest out and his fingers under his arm like this and looks at everybody down the end of their nose. That's a real king. Not a guy who lays on his back in the middle of the ring getting his butt kicked. That's exactly what happened to your king, Jerry Lawler. So you tell me who's the king. You tell me who's the real king in Memphis and all over the world.
There's only one king. Jerry Lawler, do yourself a favor. Do the people a favor. Do your family a favor. Send that crowd over to Bruiser Brody, the only king in town, by a messenger boy, and stay home. Because no matter who you get for a partner, we'll run right over. And I don't care if the black people don't like me. I don't want you to like me. And remember that. And I don't want you to like me.
All right, so Bruiser Brody making a good point here. He says, I was an honest man. I held up my end of the deal and handled Randy Savage and Dr. D. There should be no gripes because I did my job. Brody admitting that Jerry Lawler has beat a lot of men here in Memphis, but he ain't never beat Bruiser Brody. Which means, Lawler, he ain't no king of wrestling. Brody is the king of wrestling. Did Jerry Lawler look like a king tonight, guys? He asks again, who's the real king? And Bruiser Brody, we hear at the end Kareem Muhammad coming in, throwing out a challenge, basically actually warning Lawler not to accept the challenge, but to try to find a partner king that can take out the duo of Bruiser Brody and Kareem Muhammad.
Yeah, I guess the most surprising part of this to me was that we rolled right into a tag team situation here.
Yeah.
For Brody to turn, that's okay. I could see that. But the fact that we went right into Kareem coming in to helping him, and then him and Kareem basically laying out the challenge to a tag team match, you would think perhaps, all right, well, let's get a main event of Lawler and Brody in a single, and then maybe Kareem runs in, and then when you're running a weekly show like this, extend it out a little bit. But nope, we're going right for the tag team, and they have thrown down the gauntlet, Ray, for him to find a partner.
All right, so we heard from the one side, Bruiser Brody and Kareem Muhammad. Now we're going to hear from the other side, the King, Jerry Lawler, in studio here, guys. Lawler going to discuss perhaps who his partner may be. And I want to warn everybody in advance, this was 1985. It was different times because you're going to hear the King, the babyface, make a couple of comments that may not float so well in 2025. Let's go to it.
Yeah, you got that right, Muhammad. There is only one king of professional wrestling, and he's standing right here holding this crown. Now, you see, Lance, it seems for the past few weeks, I've been a man in search of a partner. Every time you turn around, I'm having to look for another partner. I went over Tux Newman's head, and I paid more money than Tux Newman was willing to pay, and I get a jerk like Bruiser Brody to come in here. Now, I got to admit, he did what he said. He made me a good partner. We did run David Schultz and Randy Macho Man Savage from the ring. But then when it was all over, he said, Lawler, I've heard everywhere, all over the world, about Memphis wrestling and about you being the king. But he said, now I'm in Memphis too, and there's only room for one of us. So either he or I myself is going to have to go. Well, let me tell you something, Brody. I've heard those words before from a lot of different people, brother. You can name them all. They've all come through here trying to get rid of the king. And I had you going too, Brody, and you know it, till this big monkey comes in the ring and jumps me from behind. So now they got themselves a little team. Well, I went partner searching again. The good thing, Lance, is there's been a lot of good partners come through this area before. And I thought for just a second, and some good names came to mind. I said I could call the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. I could get him in here. All it takes is a phone call. Or I could call Austin Idol. I could have him right here. All it takes is a phone call. But what I did, Lance, I sat down and I thought, who? I looked myself in the mirror and I said, be honest with yourself, King. Who is the toughest man? Who is the roughest man that you have ever been in a ring with or against? And I'll tell you who I came up with, Lance. And these guys are big. Oh, they're big and they're fat and they're heavy. But I don't care how big they are because, brother, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And the meanest man that I ever been in the ring with made that statement true 100 times. And I'm talking about the man that I called, and he agreed to be here Monday night, and it's superstar Bill Dundee, brother. Hey, I want you to know something. I may not always like him, and he may not always like me. but we formed the winningest tag team that has ever set foot in the Mid-South Coliseum. And Monday night, Bruiser Brody, you and Kareem Muhammad are going to see just how we earn that reputation.
Okay, Jerry, we got some words from the superstar.
All right, so Lawler talks the task of finding a good partner, Gene, one that he can trust, because he hasn't been able to find anybody he can trust as of late. And he breaks down the storyline that's been going on here in Memphis, Tennessee, as he refers to Kareem Muhammad here as a big monkey. Unbelievable we're still doing this in the mid-'80s.
Oh, my word.
Indeed, old chap. Just kind of crazy. But Lawler talks the names that he thought of to maybe offset the size of a Brody and Muhammad, somebody that could take on the duo as his partner. He mentions Jimmy Valiant, Austin Idol. Both names get huge pops by the fans in the studio, but he needed the meanest man he ever stepped in the ring with. And that man is superstar Bill Dundee. He refers to them as the winningest tag team in Memphis history. Lance says we've got words from Dundee coming up, and we'll hear those in just a moment, guys. But the big announcement, and of course he's going to name drop Valiant and Austin Idol, other big names that are not in the territory right now, but he settles on the superstar. And probably in any other territory, when you hear somebody go, I picked the meanest man I could find, and you come up with Bill Dundee, most people are going to scoff at it. But here in Memphis, that's a pretty big deal to announce Lawler and Dundee are coming to town together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, Bill Dundee had success in many territories throughout his career, but Memphis is the only one where he was a bona fide main event star. And like you said, you could bring him in against Bruiser Brody and Kareem Muhammad and him be a believable tag team partner for Jerry Lawler and him have the nerve to call him the meanest man he's ever faced. And people buy it because they've seen it.
Well, the superstar is, in fact, in town. He will be there Monday night as Lawler's partner. And right now we go off to a VTR we're going to hear from the Aussie. Here it is, superstar Bill Dundee.
Hi, I'm Bill Superstar Dundee, and I'm not telling that to the people of Memphis because they already know that. I'm talking to two people, brother, the Zambouille Express and Bruiser Brody. Oh, yeah, and I know what you're going to say. You're going to look at this and you're going to say, that guy's only a midget. He's just a itty-bitty fella. Well, I am. In the wrestling world, I'm just a little fella, brother, 5'7" and 210 pounds. But let me tell you something. Listen to this and listen to this real good. I don't know why the hero's always got to be a big, big man. When the bravest man was at the beginning of time, he stood 5'4" and he weighed 129. Little David. You remember him? He went out to fight the giant. And if you read the good book, you all know who won that. I'm just going to tell you something, fellas. I don't care who you are, what you've done. I've never wrestled one of you in my entire life. But I can tell you this. When you put Jerry Lawler and Bill Superstar Dundee together, you got the best team in professional wrestling. Yeah, and we reigned around here for 10 years. Oh, yeah, and I know what you're going to say. Well, why don't you still be together? Where was you, Dundee, when the king needed you? Well, it takes a big man to admit his mistakes, and I'm going to admit mine. I was the one that wanted to get rid of Jerry Lawler. I wanted to be the top dog around here, and we had a match to see who was, and I lost, and I don't mind it telling you that. But I'm just going to tell you this, Brody. When the two of us are in the ring together, there ain't two men alive can beat us. Oh, yeah, and like I said, you're going to say, well, he's only a midget and Lawler ain't much bigger. Well, it's what's inside, brother. It's how big the dog that fights inside, not on the outside. And I'm just going to tell you two punks something. You're going down Monday night.
All right, he refers to himself there as a little fella, 5'7", 210 pounds, but so was little David, who slayed the giant. Dundee admitting his past mistakes here in the Memphis territory. His jealousy against the king cost him his last run here in the CWA, but he's back Monday night. No better team in the history of wrestling than the King and Jerry Lawler. Zambouille and Brody, beware.
I'm pretty psyched about this. I'm sorry. I'm a Bill Dundee fan. I've spent a lot of time around Bill Dundee over the years, and two guys that, you know, as we've moved along through 1985 to true blue Memphis guys that I had missed that we hadn't seen much of so far was Tommy Rich and Bill Dundee. Well, we got a little piece of Tommy Rich recently as he passed through, and now we got Bill Dundee here, and it's really starting to feel like Memphis, Ray, when we have Bill Dundee and Jerry Lawler in a main event tag match. That's Memphis.
Yeah, Dundee coming off that run, booking and working off and on for the Cowboy down in the Mid-South territory. And he's going to float around here for a little while, and he'll pop back up again here in Memphis. But this is the first time we're seeing him in 1985. Going to be a true treat to see the King and the Superstar back in the ring together again. As we run down the matches for this Monday night at the Coliseum, Steve Constance taking on Leaping Lanny Poffo, Billy Travis going one-on-one with Tim Ashley, Jerry Jarrett teaming with Tojo Yamamoto, there that team is, taking on J.R. Hogg and Jerry Bryant. Whew, what a team. Adrian Street back in the territory for Monday night against David Haskins on the undercard. We'll also see tag team action. This is interesting. The Fabulous Ones will be accompanied by Jerry Jarrett and Tojo ringside to take on the PYTs with Tux Newman in their corner. Okay. From there, return matchup, the new Southern champion Jerry Oski battling the former champion, Macho Man Savage, and the tag team match you guys heard all about at the main event, Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee teaming up to take on Kareem Muhammad and Bruiser Brody.
I felt like it was kind of weird that, we at least should have maybe put Billy Travis in the corner with Tux to make it even. You've basically given the babyfaces an advantage and a built-in excuse here with them having two wrestlers in their corner and just poor injured Tux Newman in the corner of the PYTs. But, of course, I guess it would be Coco out there because Coco's injured and he still would be at a disadvantage. But
sure,
I don't know. Just felt odd seeing that on the screen. Like, wow, okay.
We'll see what happens when we get there. You never know what they come up with between now and then, guys. The matches might even change between now and then. It happens quite often. But
no,
I look at this lineup, and this is not new. But we have a main event, a bona fide main event. We have a bona fide semi-main event in the Fabs and the PYTs. And then look how quickly everything just drops off. Anything else on this entire show can easily be considered a curtain jerker or certainly a prelim match.
Yeah, the rest of the card, this sounds like the stuff that you read off for, Hickory Flat, Mississippi, and
Sure.
Bumfuck, Arkansas. But that's what the Memphis cards were a lot of the time from the 80s up into the 90s. So It's like you said, it's not unusual, that's for sure.
Well, from there, we heard from Bill Dundee. Now we get a music video set to Hank Williams Jr.'s All My Rowdy Friends. And, of course, there was a play off that on the Monday Night Football for many years, for those curious and not familiar with country music. But, I thought that was kind of an odd choice for Bill Dundee to see the Australian out here to a music video from Hank Williams. I don't know. But it's Memphis, so I guess that's what else do you expect?
Yeah, it did strike me as kind of odd, too. But then again...
There's been worse.
Really weird music choices. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take it.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Rasslin Podcast, where we talk the territories. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Rasslin Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Rasslin Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Rasslin Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, Videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia podcast network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
Well, we saw a VTR from the Coliseum Monday night. We saw that big epic brawl between Brody and Jerry the King Lawler. Now we go back to last Sunday. Oh, no, we're not going there yet. I apologize, guys. In fact, we're going to a VTR first to Jerry Jarrett. Going to cut a promo from his home and maybe a ranch or something, it looks like, later on in this vignette. But complete with animal heads on the wall there in his house. Old Jerry Jarrett rocking a pink suit, explaining his background to the new fans of Memphis who may not know who he is. Though a wrestler first, his goal was always to reach the pinnacle and become a promoter. What did you think of just the layout of this video before we get into everything that goes on here? Jerry Jarrett in a pink suit in front of a wild boar head.
It's an interesting, it's an interesting look. It felt heelish. Like this guy who's basically telling, hey, I worked my way up to the big time. I'm the promoter. I'm the big cheese here. And here I am in my pink suit and my boar's head on the wall. It just did not scream babyface to me at all. But, you know, I'm sure in Jerry Jarrett's mind, that's exactly what he was here.
Well, he's been out of the ring for 4 years, so he's reminding everyone of who he was, and the new fans, he's teaching them who he is. He says, I trained under a man by the name of Tojo Yamamoto, who beat me with sticks. And it's literally what he said. He beat him with sticks for pain tolerance, says Jerry. But Tojo, he trained Jerry Jarrett, helped him break in. However, Jerry aspired to own a wrestling promotion, and that he eventually did. And for the last 4 years, Jarrett has been out of the ring and in the office. He obtained his goals, but something had been missing, Gene. Something had been missing in his life. He realized he enjoyed life more when he was obtaining his goal rather than achieving it. So he's going back to the ring. Out of retirement, Jerry Jarrett returns as a professional wrestler.
Whew, yeah. All I could think of when they first announced that Jerry Jarrett and Tojo were coming back as a tag team is that last Tojo match we saw with him and Playboy Frazier. And it's just like, oh my goodness, man, do we really need Tojo back in the ring? And I didn't really know what to expect out of Jerry Jarrett, but I wasn't expecting a pink suit, that kind of a, know, Miami Vice look he had going on in his ranch house here.
Good for him in the mid-'80s. A guy not that he was old, but a guy his age trying to stay young and stick with those colors of the time. And yeah, but it's kind of funny because midway through the promo, we continue to hear the audio, but the video changes over to some pre-recorded footage as we see footage of Jerry Jarrett having Tojo Yamamoto try on hats. That was happening during that. I don't know what that had to do with any of this. But at one point, Tojo even putting a baseball cap on and Jerry Jarrett turning it sideways. Boy, you want to talk about, two Falk for sure. Tojo Yamamoto back here in 85, that would have been kick-ass. So Tojo, though, turning away that baseball cap. Instead, he wanted Jerry Jarrett's cowboy hat he was wearing. Tojo like cowboy hat, boy-san. So Tojo, this is great, settles on the cowboy hat. However, in the very next clip in the car, Tojo is wearing the baseball cap. And I wrote here in my notes, well, it's official. No continuity in anything in Memphis.
Not at all. I'm always a sucker for Tojo Yamamoto in a cowboy hat. Jumping ahead to 91 when he was part of the Team Texas and he's coming out to the ring with Eric Embry wearing a cowboy hat and carrying a Texas flag. That popped me every single time. Just such a funny sight. But yeah, I noticed what you did there. The continuities just leaves a lot to be desired, as some would say.
Yeah, but it was great when he put his the baseball cap on him sideways. I had to pop. There's a gimmick you guys dropped the ball on. Off topic too. Every time I saw a wrestler or a manager or anyone appear on TV, I was taught that they were major league, whether it was WWF, WCW, or someone on ESPN. And of course, USWA Dallas had Phil Hickerson, PY Chuhai, managed by Tojo Yamamoto. So to me, automatically, he became just as popular in my brain as, say, Mr. Fuji in the WWF, because if it's on TV, it's got to be big league, right? And I'm not even trying to knock it by trying to compare the two. I'm just saying, so I didn't know Tojo from his heyday, but I knew of who he was by the end of the 80s anyway. So at least I got to see a little bit of Tojo in my life is basically where I was going with that.
Yeah, I heard a lot of stories like from my dad and like my uncles that watch wrestling growing up and hearing stories about Tojo, because I only knew Tojo as kind of the little chubby manager. I seen the tail end of his career, kind of what we've seen here, but I mostly just saw him as a little tubby manager, like you say, managing Hickerson and different people. And that man, it's like that now here, even like here in Alabama where he wrestled over in Huntsville and stuff for the Goulises and everything. People have so many fond memories of Tojo and those wooden shoes and the kendo sticks. And man, he made a huge impression on people during his time in the ring. And he was a tough guy. And, you mentioned Jerry Jarrett saying in the interview how Tojo used to beat him with sticks. And I have sat and personally heard with my own ears, Tommy Rich and Tracy Smothers and different people talking about from experience, taking licks with those sticks and just what a vicious guy that Tojo was. And you see him in this era and you're just like, really? He's that guy?
Yeah, for sure. But apparently if you bend over and allow someone to beat you with a stick, it's going to happen.
A lot of things go wrong when you
bend over and
allow stuff.
Yeah, with somebody with a stick. Exactly. Get the AIDS, boy. That's what happens.
Just ask David Schultz.
Well, I jumped the gun earlier, but we do go to the VTR now. After listening to Jerry Jarrett and watching some comedy there with Tojo Yamamoto, we go back to last Sunday in Jackson, Tennessee. It was Tojo and Jerry Jarrett coming out of retirement, teaming up to take on the PYT Express, Coco Ware and Norvell Austin. Again, continuity. Coco hurt his shoulder last Saturday. This match took place the following day. But, we'll get into that in a little bit. Anywho, it is Coco and Norvell in the ring. Tojo has Norvell pinned in the middle. Coco going to nail Tojo with Tux's shoe. There's a change in pace. And the PYT steal the win there. And then post-match, it's Billy Travis in with Tux Newman, handing the straps off. And a 4-on-2 beatdown here as the heels put down Tojo and Jerry Jarrett.
Yeah, all that popped in my mind watching that was that old Michael Scott line, how the turntables whenever Tojo's getting hit with someone else's shoe. I was like, man, all those years Tojo was cracking people with those wooden shoes we just mentioned, and there he is getting hit with Tux's shoe.
I bet they were trying to figure out a finish, and Tojo's like, why don't you hit me with shoe, boy, son? It's like, it's the only finish he had, right? So
yeah,
it worked every time.
That's what heels do, man. They hit people with their shoe.
Well, I'm glad I went back and watched this twice, because the first time I didn't note this, but the second time I'm like, holy shit. I wrote, look at that crowd. Woof. Barely a sold-out floor. Nobody in the stands. I don't know. I mean, what are we talking? Maybe, I think it would be safe to say 100 people?
Maybe. It looked like a freaking bomb scare in there. Like, I don't know that footage, what went on in that footage, was necessarily worth people seeing that crowd.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, like you said, you didn't notice it till the second time. And people like us tend to look at things like that. I guess as a fan in the moment, you're just watching the match and you're not really even thinking about that. But man, it looked bad. Yeah, there was not a lot of people. And at one time, Jackson was a big draw, but not at this time.
I would have never have guessed that until we saw, the footage. It really shocked me. From there, we move on, though. We go to another VTR. The Fabulous Ones couldn't be bothered to enter the studio this week, so they're going to cut a promo from some backyard somewhere here in Memphis, I presume. They say the Memphis fans only back a winner, and Steve Keirn makes a vow that moving forward, the fans will only see winners in the Fabs. Stan Lane admits that after traveling the world and being ranked number 1 in the world, they maybe rested on their laurels a little, but they plan to prove the Memphis fans they are winners once again, and they will prove that starting today, which is kind of hard to do when you're not in the studio, Stan.
Did you get the impression that maybe this is some old tape that they had in the can? Because the things they were referring to, like going out and leaving Memphis and traveling the world and all that, feels like this may have been when they were first coming back or, while they were gone. Like, they don't mention any of the problems they've had with the PYTs, which is who they're wrestling Monday night. This just feels like a random interview from some other time. This isn't something they shot in the backyard this week. It's just something we had on hand that if we ever need to run it, we can run it. And this is the week we're going to do it.
You know what? I never even thought of that, but as you were saying that makes 100% sense because, again, like you said, there was no reference to anything really going on, and I thought it was just odd that they were, again, talking about traveling the world because that's what they were doing the first few weeks they were coming in. They've been here. We haven't heard that spiel in a while, and this whole, we're going to show you we're winners again, it really doesn't apply to what's the storyline currently, so It did seem odd. Just the entire situation seemed odd. Even the promo seemed odd because they haven't really been doing the backyard thing. So, yeah, I'm on board with that train of thought that this was recorded months ago and we're just now seeing it because clearly they didn't want to show up for the studio and they didn't have anything new in the can.
Yeah, one of them didn't want to stand in front of a window somewhere. So, well, we got that old promo. We're in the backyard. Let's just run that.
Yeah, generic promo number 7. Roll it, Willie.
Exactly.
Well, the VTRs just keep rolling, guys. We are on location in a parking lot, I'll have you know. Was that the Channel 5 parking lot? I have no idea. It is Tux Newman, Coco Ware with his arm in a sling, and the newest member, perhaps, of the PYT, Billy Travis, as they're here for a very special ceremony in a parking lot. How about that?
I guess because it's May and the weather's nice, in this part of the country. Bill Dundee was just randomly outside looked like on the side of the highway somewhere shooting a promo.
There were cars on the highway in the background, yeah.
The Fabulous Ones are on a camping trip or something, and now these guys are just hanging out in a parking lot. But we want to get outdoors. We don't want to stand back there in the dressing room with Lance. Dude, this felt like the longest goddamn thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I used to not really have a lot of awareness about lengths of promos always, but now that I've been doing this USWA podcast for several months and I look at how long each clip is and where I fit them into the show and everything, I pay more attention to things like that, and I was like, God damn, this was the longest promo that went really fucking nowhere. Like, Coco just went on, and it's just, or maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, but God, this felt long.
It was long. I felt longer that may have been shorter. It depends on who's cutting the promo, I suppose. But yeah, I feel like they gave Coco time to shine and he was going to get over fun is really what all this was about. But Coco Beware, you got to remember, he's out here with his arm in a sling, so he is slightly injured, that shoulder. And replacing him is the latest member of the PYT, Billy Travis, is going to be replacing Coco in upcoming matches. Travis says he went to the Fabs, Jerry Lawler and Jerry Oski, and asked them all for help to teach him, train him. But they said, get away, kid. You bother me. Then he went to Mr. Newman and the PYT for help, and they offered to teach him. Well, that actually makes sense, Gene.
Yeah. It wasn't a bad, I mentioned it earlier. It wasn't necessarily a bad promo from Billy, and what he said made sense, but just the delivery of it just felt like a hostage video or something. Like
he's learning. Maybe his first promo.
To his credit, I mean, hell, he hadn't really got a chance to do promos up till now. But I don't know. But I wasn't any more impressed with Coco's portion of the promo than I was Billy's. So I guess maybe that's what made it feel so long, because I didn't time it or anything, but I guess just because how uncomfortable both of them seemed, it it felt really long. But like you say, the content of what Billy said did make a lot of sense, though. So there's that.
Well, the baby faces didn't have time for him. The heels did, and so Billy went with the heel. Whoever's going to help him get to the top. And Travis out there rocking a white tank top as Coco makes him take it off. He says, "We don't wear garbage here." Coco, I don't know. I've been seeing some of these guys walk out. I don't know here in the studio, but Coco instead has a present.
Speak for yourself, Coco.
Well, multiple presents for Billy. Indeed, multiple presents here for Billy Travis, and it starts with a pair of black shades to make him look pretty. A red leather jacket, Michael Jackson style, represents youth, pretty young. And Coco then responds, "Now you're cooking." But we're not done yet.
Yeah.
Say it, Frankie. So we've got the pretty and we've got the young. And then out comes the silver glove, which is apparently the thing. I've always wondered what the thing was. I thought it was Norville Austin. Turns out the thing is the silver glove. It brings you luck, says Coco Ware. And he says, that's the thing right there. PYT number 3, Billy Travis, as they trash talk the Fabs, Tojo, and Jarrett. They say Jarrett was the boss, but now Tux is the boss. Jarrett, just a sorry punk wrestler.
Okay, first of all, I thought the way you were going along the lines there, I thought you were about to go, and then he pulls it out and gives him the thing. But
gives him the thing.
I had,
and it feels good. Good.
I had been pondering since the PYT showed up the whole pretty young thing name, and you'd kind of laid it out there what your theory was, which was close to this to some degree, but here we go. There's our definitive answer. The look, the leather jacket represents youth. The shades represent pretty, and the glove is apparently the thing. Wow. We've completed the package. And Billy has officially been indoctrinated into the PYTs.
PYT number 3, Billy Travis. Unbelievable. So I think we're finally done with the on-location VTRs for this week on TV. We go back to the studio. Seems like forever. Those fans had been having a blast sitting in the studio for the last half hour doing nothing. As we come back for the big matchup, going to close the show, expiration of time. Going to see Tim Ashley take on the masked Mr. Wrestling. Still here.
Yeah, I mean, every week that Mr. Wrestling would show up, I kept thinking and speculating, I bet this is the last week, Ray. I bet he's getting the hell out of here. And then he pops back up randomly. But, boy, this took an interesting turn.
Well, there were no Titantrons in the Memphis studio back then. So when all of these vignettes were airing, I'm not sure what the fans in the studio were watching because I had never attended one of those. I don't know if you've ever been to the TV5 studio, Gene.
I haven't. I went to some Coliseum shows and different things, but now I know several people who did, and there is like a regular TV size monitor in there that they could see it from like across the room and it played out through the sound system. So they could kind of see it, hear it, but I got to imagine, especially like that last freaking promo, that in a studio watching it on a small television from the other side of the room, probably didn't hold their attention too well. I'm sure by now, as many promos as they've been hit with, they had to be getting freaking restless as hell.
Yeah, and then they get this matchup. This is what they're told. All right, guys, we got time for one more match, and it's Mr. Wrestling taking on Tim Ashley. Expiration of time, which means this could go multiple falls. We'll have to wait and see. Fall number 1, and the action here, matching the crowd, which is dead at this point. Lots of laying around in the ring. Mr. Wrestling at one point delivering a drop toe hold. Tim Ashley going to try to take the drop toe hold by doing a somersault roll, trying to take a bump like that. I wrote, ugh, have we not learned anything in the last 6 months, Mr. Ashley? But that may have been the most exciting thing in the fall because from there, nothing happens. It appears the masked man has a foreign object in his tights and Jerry Calhoun, the referee, questioning him about it. But the masked man delivering an Irish whip into the corner, but missing a charge. And Ashley going to go straight for his mask. Randomly, out of nowhere, for seemingly no reason, Tim Ashley just decides, hey, the crowd's dead. I got to wake him up. I'm going to go for this guy's mask. And off comes the mask. Unbelievable. Mr. Wrestling unmasked as Tommy Gilbert. Well, I'll be damned. And with Gilbert stunned, Tim Ashley with the schoolboy getting the pin in 6:02.
I mean, Tommy Gilbert's been Mr. Wrestling all the way back to when Eddie was still here, and we had Eddie's Army and all that going on. Jimmy, right after Jimmy Hart left, and with no build-up, like you said, no reasoning, just randomly in this match with one attempt. It wasn't even like that. Okay, we're going to make the story of this match, Tim. You're trying to get the mask off Mr. Wrestling, and you try, and you fail, and you try, and you fail, and then maybe in the second. No, he just suddenly just goes right after the mask, and he almost immediately gets the mask off of him.
It's not even like Tommy Gilbert was cheating the entire match or kept kicking him in the dick, and he was looking for revenge here. It was just, he missed the charge. I'm going to go after this fucking mask here. And I wrote in my notes, isn't unmasking guys like a disqualification, or is that just Mexico? Or is it also because there are no more DQs here in Memphis, supposedly? So just random, but clearly Tommy probably walked in that day and said, do we really need to keep doing this mask thing?
Yeah, I feel like he was probably over the mask shit. And because, I didn't realize until I was doing it had been so long since I'd watched any 84, but I was researching something else. And I realized that there had been a match towards the end of 84 that Eddie and Tommy was in. It was like the Gilberts against Randy and Lanny, and each person a different stipulation. Like Eddie Gilbert put up the international title. If Randy lost, he would put up a car or some shit, and then like Lanny, if he lost, was going to have to wear a dress. And if Tommy lost, he had to leave town, and Tommy lost. Then that's why I guess it had only been like, at that point, it had only been like 4 months since he lost the Loser Leave Town when he shows back up as Mr. Wrestling. But they never even mentioned that. Because remember, I asked you, I'm like, why can he not be, why is he Mr. Wrestling? What's the point in this shit? But that was why, apparently. I guess they figured enough time had gone by that nobody cared anymore, and he probably was sick of wearing the mask. They're still just, you could have built it. You could at least make it carry over to a Monday night show. Or, hey, tonight in Jonesboro, the mask is going to be on the line when these guys wrestle again or something. It was just so random and unnecessary, but, here he is. I love that Lance said something to the effect, didn't he, of like, to the surprise of no one, Mr. Wrestling's dead.
It's possible Lance said that. I was trying to get over the storytelling of the whole unmasking here, and I do like that this cheap, maybe the shittiest mask in wrestling history, at least by someone that wasn't a job guy. And he's treating this thing like, I don't want this thing, but he's making sure he's keeping an eye on it. So after losing the mask, he throws it down, but he throws it down on the chair that they use for a stair to step up into the ring, and he makes sure he can see where it's at. But he tosses it down to begin the second fall. So we do have time for a second fall here on TV, guys. Tommy Gilbert now coming for revenge, attacking Ashley here, and this fall is all Tommy Gilbert. Ashley going to deliver an inside cradle at one point, get himself a 2 count. You can't take Jerry Oski's move there, Tim. But then we go to the expiration of time, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And it was all Tommy Gilbert outside of that small package. So Ashley going to get the win by default. He won fall number 1. And he's going to fire up at the end long enough to clear Tommy Gilbert from the ring. And I had to chuckle. I don't know if you caught this, but as Tommy leaves the ringside area, he goes back and grabs his mask because not going to cost himself $4.
Yeah, my note was he must have borrowed that mask from somebody, and they were like, hey, if y'all are taking it off today, I want it back. Don't you leave without that mask. Like
you got to pay me for it.
He set it right in the chair, got in there, and he had his match, and the first thing he did when he got out of the ring was grab the mask and leave with it. So I felt like somebody was expecting that mask back when he got back to town.
I better get that back. So Tommy Gilbert, Mr. Wrestling No More, Tommy Gilbert has been unmasked, what we've known all along, thanks to Lance and Dave in week number 1, whether it was on purpose or not. But we conclude this week's TV with that match right there. That happened. And not that I'm complaining, but I wrote in my notes, what happened to all the 2 out of 3 fall matches?
Yeah, and what a anticlimactic, like, he wins the first fall, and then they go to expiration time in the second fall. But like, oh, he wins because he won the first fall, even though Tommy Gilbert whipped his ass through most of the fall. The whole pretty much made him pay the price for taking his mask off. Is this such a weird storytelling there?
Yeah, weird booking indeed. But a much quieter episode this week of TV with the good doctor not out here prognosing anyone with deadly diseases. No mention either of Dr. D, you might have noticed this week, outside of saying that Brody and Lawler ran off Randy Savage and David Schultz the one time the name is mentioned. There's no other mention of Dr. D, where he was, or anything of that nature, so it's as if he was never here.
Yeah, I was waiting for like some little like Tux Newman to be like, hey, Dr. D couldn't get it done, so he's out of here. Or even Savage, even, like, I'll find a better tag team partner or something. But there was, like you said, just no mention of him. Like, let's try to hope that everybody just forgets that he was ever on their television.
How can you forget?
Let's just move forward.
After he announces Lawler has AIDS, they expect everyone to forget this guy was not. And again, like you said, I knew Schultz wasn't around long. I didn't realize he was gone so quickly. I expected him to be around for a few more weeks. So when I looked ahead to see, well, what are we doing this week? I said, wait a minute, where was Dr. D? And I realized, well, he wasn't here. And that was just really unfortunate. I would like to get a little more out of him, because where do you go after you announce that the headliner has AIDS and you're walking around with Nazi signs in 1985? I mean, what is the next step to get heat?
Do you think there was a meeting in the dressing room after that? Like, hey guys, I didn't think I had to say this, but I guess I do. Hey, don't ever say anybody has AIDS out there on TV, please. Least of all the King. Jesus.
It kind of reminds me of the Tracy Smothers promo upcoming with Boy Tony, but that's for another day, I suppose. Right now we roll on to later that day, the same day as the TV, May the 11th, a couple of shows, one in Batesville, Mississippi at the South Panola High School. The big 10-man battle royal for 1,000 smackaroonies, guys. $1,000 on the line. 10-man poll. Can't even lie at a house show. The winner will get that big $1,000, one large, with Constance Ashley, Tojo Yamamoto, and Tommy Gilbert all participating in that 10-man.
Batesville, Mississippi. I wrestled there many times, but not at South Panola High School, so never got an opportunity to do a pole battle royal there. I could have used $1,000. Still could right now, to be honest.
Really unfortunate. I picture the pole not being attached to the ring, but rather holding the roof up, I would imagine, unless they just kind of attached it there. But you can kind of tell by the guys involved here that I don't even have to know what's on the other show. I'm going to call this the B show. As we also see here on May the 11th in Nashville, it's going to be Tracy Smothers taking on Billy Travis. That could have been fun. Brad Batten against Kareem Muhammad. Adrian Street against Mark Batten. Jerry Oski, the new Southern champion, versus Lanny Poffo in a no disqualification match. And the Fabs also taking on the PYTs in a no disqualification match. And if that wasn't enough, main event, here it is, 2 out of 3 falls. Jerry Lawler teaming with Jackie Fargo. No mention on TV. Even, I know it's Nashville, but it just seems peculiar we wouldn't try to reference this anywhere on the program. But it's Jerry Lawler and Jackie Fargo, accompanied by a special second, taking on the Macho Man, and Tux Newman going to get in the ring with a special second in their corner. Do you know anything about this match, these special seconds, or anything that the outcome here?
I don't. I'll have to do some research into that, because, depending on the time of year, when you get Jackie Fargo involved and you start having a special second, you feel like maybe Roughhouse Fargo is going to show up, but I don't know. And I don't know who the special second would be with Savage and Tux at this point. So I'd like to find out about that. I'll have to do some research and see if anybody knows anything about that.
I've done a lot of digging to get results. I have a lot of Nashville results for the rest of the year, but unfortunately, one of the few I was missing just happened to be this one. So very saddened by that. So I too am going to continue to dig. But if anybody out there has some deep Nashville results, especially 1985 here, we'd love to know the results of that main event, May the 11th. Lawler and Fargo, Randy and Newman, who were their cornermen? Get back with us, guys. Let us know, and we'll talk about it. We'll put you over here on the show.
Looking at you, Steve.
There you go. Steve's on assignment right now out in Alaska, of all places. Yeah, that's the ticket. He's on assignment for WrestleCopia. That's what he's doing.
There you go. He's searching for Nashville results out in Alaska.
That's how you do it. Apparently anything in Memphis, you got to go abroad to figure it out. As we continue on to the following day, the Jerry Lawler Show for May the 12th. Happy Mother's Day, guys. As we get a VTR right up front, Jerry Lawler interviewing superstar Bill Dundee. As it appears, they're on the same side, at least for now. Dundee being brought in to team with the King against Bruiser Brody and Kareem Muhammad Monday night. Dundee then going to run down the list of names that have come through Memphis, the monsters that they have put away. Joe LeDuc and Jean-Louis, Kamala and the Great Kabuki, and the Valiant Brothers? That one kind of confused me there. I don't really remember Johnny Valiant coming through. Maybe he did. But when you talk about monsters, usually Johnny Valiant's not on that list.
Not in that context anyway. But yeah, who could forget that famous tag team of Kamala and the Great Kabuki coming through?
Yeah, fuck it, cluck it, duck it, chuck it. It is the Valiant Brothers. Johnny. Well, to Dundee, they're all monsters because they're about 6 feet tall. But Dundee admitting that he is a midget. He actually says that here. I'm a midget, but he's the toughest midget you'll ever find, guys. Jerry Lawler addressing their issues in the past, but says Dundee is the toughest man he's ever faced. And that's why he called upon him for the big tag team bout this Monday. Dundee admitting their past issues and takes the blame. He got goofy. He says he got jealous. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog for Bill Dundee as we get that All My Rowdy Friends music video to finish up the segment.
Yes, that was definitely worth the second look. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's fascinating that, over the years, it was in the course of, just a promo. Anytime they needed to go to that well, in the course of a promo, you could make Dundee and Lawler a tag team. You could make them mortal enemies back and forth. And the fans always went with it. And it was always believable because there was that element to these guys that, yes, they were, not, I don't think they were ever really considered friends, but,
Right.
They definitely were partners in crime and work. But you could sense that real life animosity and that jealousy between them, and so they made that work for them. So just anytime you needed to, if you're like, who the hell who's Lawler going to work? I'll send Dundee out there. We'll run that for 2 weeks. We can run it for 8 weeks because in '84 that Lawler Dundee feud, my God, they had feuded all those years.
Yeah.
There in Memphis, and in '84 they had that long-running feud before Dundee went off to Mid-South. That's how you could always bring him back in, because if Lawler forgave him, nobody questioned, like, hey, why is he coming back? He lost to Loser Leave Town, or he wasn't supposed to be back. Well, Lawler forgave him. We're forgiving him, and he's a babyface, and all is well with the world until he gets jealous of Lawler again, and we'll walk that path another time or two.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to their stuff from 77 there. Dundee essentially going to get a push. They're in 77 because of the split between Goulas and Jerry Jarrett and, all their stuff going on there. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. Right now, they're on the same page. I don't know if that's going to last the duration of the year, but for right now, we know Lawler and Dundee are a tag team, at least for this week. As we go off now to the viewer mail segment, Jerry Lawler asked this week his most important title that he has ever held. As he strives for the AWA World title, the King says the Southern title has to be his greatest championship he's ever held because it makes him the number one contender to the AWA World Championship. Makes sense.
It does, in their world anyway. It always bothered me why the Southern title was held in higher esteem than something called the International title, and the Southern champ was put ahead of the international champ for the world title, just strictly based on name alone. But
I'm still waiting for Terry Taylor to come back and drop that belt.
Oh shit! He took the belt and he's out defending it internationally across Louisiana.
I believe he's in Nairobi right now, or something along those lines. So. As the program goes on, Jerry Lawler once again going to shill his book here. You can pick him up at the local bookstores now, only $10. I don't know if that was what it cost to begin with, but he kind of made it sound like it was a discount here. We also, as per the usual, he does some local news coverage, and this week it's on a guy by the name of Paul Page, who will be calling this year's Indianapolis 500 in 1985, but he'll be doing it on the radio. No live TV coverage of the Indianapolis 500. My, how times have changed.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing more exciting than listening to a race on the radio, Gray.
Mm-hmm. That's, play-by-play or color commentary. That's the question Jerry Lawler had there. We continue on. Boy, this is the best part of the entire show coming up here. Jerry Lawler going to have a guy by the name of Chris Ellsworth on his show. Chris Ellsworth, part of the Lawler's Army softball team. They're going to be taking on the Nike All-Stars upcoming in the week, and Lawler receiving a pair of new Nike Spitfires right here on the program. So the King going to give away a gift card to TGI Friday. Meanwhile, he's receiving some Nike Spitfires.
Yes. Michael Jordan had his Jordans, and now Lawler has some Nike Spitfires when he's out there playing softball, which he does a lot.
And they make the joke here that Nike sent him the shoes so he can't make any excuses when they lose the game. And that is when this happens. It's a thing, guys. This actually happens on the show. We see the top 10 softball teams in Memphis, Tennessee. Lawler claims that a lot of fans have been writing in to see the top 10 softball teams, and we get them right here on our TV screens. I shit you not. And in at number 9, hey, Danny Dunn's Transmission. What do you know? I also noticed Coca-Cola going to play here. They're in at number 5, but Big Knockers. I don't know what that is, but I got a kick out of it. Big Knockers, number 6 in the softball league. Got to love that.
I'm sure Lawler was a fan, so.
I was a fan, and I don't even know what it is. But, yeah, I had to pop for that one. And, of course, tied for number 1, Lawler's Army with the Mid-South Beverage. And I'd have to imagine Mid-South Beverage is probably really number 1. Lawler kind of just threw his team in there as a tie at the top. But he does mention that they recently beat the Millington Moondogs last week, 39-5. And I thought he was joking at first until Chris Ellsworth goes, yeah, it was 39-5. Like he was just saying it passively. So I go, who the fuck let a game get that out of hand before they just called it?
Well, it's hard to hit a softball with a chair. Those Millington Moondogs were at a disadvantage from the very beginning. And I just hope that when this guy's son, James Ellsworth, got into the wrestling business, that he remembers all the great times his father had playing softball with Jerry Lawler.
James Ellsworth probably had his chin knocked off by one of those softball shots. 39-5. My God, I've never heard tell of that in my entire life. Only the king would allow his game. No, we're just going to keep hitting. No, they got to get us out. We're not done till, oh man, boost that ego a little more. No wonder Lawler's Army. I love how all the other teams are like some sort of a company brand, and Jerry Lawler's Army is just Jerry Lawler's Army.
Yeah, the 39-5, that is softball's version of a squash match, or doing the job, if you will. So,
yeah, it's a Batten Twins match is what that is.
I would love to find out that the Batten Twins played for the Millington Moondogs in that league in Memphis.
Well, we saw him here a few weeks ago on the Lawler show, and returning now is Jerry Oski, but this time he's not alone. This time he brings with him the Southern Heavyweight title. As once again we see a clip of the title change, Jerry Oski defeating the Macho Man last Tuesday in Louisville, but the rematch goes down tomorrow night at the Mid-South Coliseum. And Lawler says after the rematch with the Macho Man, Jerry the King Lawler himself wants a title shot from Jerry Oski. So it wasn't that long ago we saw Oski on here, and he proclaimed he was going for the title. And even then they kind of teased having a matchup for that belt should one of them win it. And here it is, Oski, believe it or not, is the one that is the champion.
Yeah, and once you saw the card for Monday night, the Oski win suddenly made a little bit more sense, because it's like, all right, well, we knew apparently that we're pivoting Lawler into a feud with Brody and not involving Savage for whatever reason. So how can we place some interest on a match with Savage and, Oski going into Memphis next week? Well, what if we suddenly made Oski win the title of one of these other towns, and he comes into it as the champion? That would have to be somewhat pique the interest of fans who otherwise would have just assumed Savage was going to squash Oski in the semi-main event,
right?
Or semi-main event, I guess. So I guess now I kind of get it, because as you pointed out earlier in the show, by default, I guess he's the, second babyface behind Lawler as far as singles goes, which tells you everything you need to know about the roster depth in Memphis in 1985 with babyfaces.
Yeah, you got the Fabs, you're forcing that, which, it was over. It worked. I get why there's still a tag team here. I'm not really questioning that, but Jarrett comes out of retirement, and the first thing they do is put him in a tag team as well. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do in the short term. Dundee's here, but I don't think he's sticking around for very long at this point in time anyway, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Right now, we had a couple of fun commercials during this Lawler show episode, and I actually cut these both out and I posted them both on my YouTube. You guys can go check them out right now. There is yet another in the fun line of Jerry Lawler, Danny Dunn transmission commercials. Lawler having fun there with pounding someone with a bad transmission, treating him like a Batten twin here, beating him for having a shitty car basically, and yelling at him for not going to Dunn's Transmissions. Now, I've heard in the past, Danny Dunn, a cousin or a relative of Jerry Lawler, or is that just rumor?
That's always been the rumor. I've never been able to confirm or deny it, but that is what I've always heard.
Well, it certainly would explain his love for doing these Dunn's Transmission commercials. And, of course, Dunn's Transmission, also one of the top 10 in the softball teams here in Memphis right now. So
that's what I was about to say. If he's not related to him, then the softball connection would be the other answer. But I don't know. I figure to Lawler, the softball connection means more than if they were related anyway. So that's probably really and truly the answer. They
True
play
that.
softball together.
So we get the local commercial, Jerry Lawler doing the Dunn's Transmission. We also got a national commercial in here, and I thought, man, that guy looks an awful lot like, and it was indeed Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, and I did not remember this commercial, doing an Absorbine Jr. commercial, and I had to look that up to see if it still exists. Apparently, that's still a thing, Absorbine Jr., but I'll have you know, in my household, that thing cured a lot of illnesses due to my grandparents. They constantly had that in our medicine cabinet.
And if you ever smelled it once in your life, you never forget it. Like if you sit here and I just read Absorbine Jr. on the screen in the notes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can smell that right now. But I'm like you, I did not remember that Paul Orndorff did a commercial for Absorbine Jr. back then. So I saw you put those up the other day, and I immediately checked them out. I was like, wow, that's fun.
Yeah, it took me aback. Like I said, I didn't know it was him initially. I thought, that's not Paul Orndorff. And sure enough, I start seeing the hair, and I'm like, oh my God, that really is Mr. Wonderful. And this would have been just a couple months after his baby face turn. So I'm not sure when this commercial started airing, but it may have started airing when he was a heel for that matter. But yeah, so Paul Orndorff on national TV doing a commercial, pretty cool there, and holding the world up way before Bill Kazmaier did it in Halloween Havoc 91.
Very true. Very true. He set the table for old Bill Kazmaier.
Well, let me set the table for you, because this is not a Memphis-esque roster here in this upcoming lineup. But later that day, May the 12th, Sunday in Charleston, Missouri, 7 p.m. start time. My notes here say, woof. Listen to this. Clearly a PAFO promoted town, I'd have to imagine, because here are the results. These are the headline matches. Angelo Poffo defeats Jack Attack by disqualification. Lanny Poffo over Touch of Class. And in the main event, Randy Savage defeating Johnny Wilhoit. Those were the headline matches.
Wow. If the best you can come up with to wrestle Savage is Johnny Wilhoit, it's hard times.
It's hard times. I feel like most of this roster were in masks, certainly double and triple duty, because the undercard reads like this. Cruiser number 1 over Outlaw. Cruiser number 2 over Vince Marley. I got to look this guy up. And then the Cruisers return as a tag team over the Patriots, scoring a win by countout. I have to believe the Patriots are likely the Outlaw and Vince Marley in hoods.
I would assume so, and I'm willing to bet Jack Attack's probably one of the freaking Cruisers. Are you more of a Cruiser number 1 kind of guy or a Cruiser number 2 kind of a guy?
Well, I'm a Touch of Class guy, but Lanny Poffo beat him on this show. So, yeah, this is quite the card. And as you can see, Savage and the Poffos on this one. And, I'd heard the stories of after Angelo made the deal and joined Jarrett, he still had contracts in just a few cities for his TV show. And so he would take the Memphis footage and air that. Jerry Jarrett would allow him to do that, to continue to promote or run those cities because he had a contract or something along those lines. I'm wondering if Charleston, Missouri was one of those cities.
Oh, I'd be willing to bet. That makes a lot of sense. Those are those tape. There's like a few tapes of those out there, like episodes. Is those episodes where you've got Elizabeth. Like Elizabeth introducing matches from Memphis? Mm-hmm. Okay, I've seen a little bit of that. That's interesting. But yeah, I would just about guarantee Charleston, Missouri is one of those towns for sure.
Jerry Jarrett was like, you guys can go work that town, but I'm not sending anybody else there with you, because Angelo probably didn't pay these guys Jack Attack shit. That caught me off guard when I saw. God bless whoever found these results, though, right? Because we can't even get results for. There's a few Louisville Garden shows I can't find results for, but heaven forbid we don't know what's going down in Charleston, Missouri on May the 12th, 1985. I'll have you know.
But I'll guarantee you this: somewhere over in some random small indie promotion in Missouri, the Cruisers are in a Hall of Fame.
Oh, I have no doubt about it. I have no doubt about it. And if anybody can direct us in that area, I will one day make an attempt to come down there and photograph it myself. I got to see that in person.
Definitely worth the drive, I hear.
Yeah.
Looks like Briscoe Brothers Body Shop.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we fast forward to the following day, Monday night, of course, Mid-South Coliseum in front of 3,500 fans, May the 13th. I do not have complete results. The undercard, I have the matches, but I don't have results. But 4 of these matches, the 4 headline matches, will actually air on TV as part of that Jackson, Tennessee televised arena show. So we're actually going to have some detailed results here in just a moment on the 4 top matches. Well, 4 of the top matches, I should say. On the undercard, it was Steve Constance taking on Lanny Poffo. Going to assume maybe Lanny went over there. Adrian Street, no doubt, defeated David Haskins. And then there was a matchup, and you kind of guesstimated why didn't they do this. I believe this is what happens here. The PYT, Coco injured, so it is in fact Billy Travis doing double duty because he's going to wrestle another match as well. But it is Norvell Austin teaming with Billy Travis with Tux Newman and Coco Ware in their corner, taking on the Fabs with Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto in their corner. So I don't have results for the match, but the booking makes a little more sense.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I was not privy to the results, so I didn't know that was happening, but I just thought, not even for the execution, just for the advertisement, it would sound better for the heels to have equal footing as far as people at ringside. But,
right.
But yeah, I would be willing to say with all the confidence in the world that Adrian Street beat David Haskins. I don't know about Fabs versus PYT, though. That could go either way, right, with all them guys at ringside.
Well, Billy Travis going to pull double duty on this show, and this match did air on TV, so I happen to have the finisher. Billy Travis pinning Tim Ashley. Tux Newman going to distract Ashley from ringside. Billy Travis coming with a high knee into the back, scoring the win. Lance Russell announcing the match as 11 minutes and 46 seconds. Seems a little long for a Tim Ashley match, but wow, it's kind of a shocker. Billy Travis getting a singles win.
I like it. Good for Billy, and he needed to rack up some wins if he's going to be running with the PYT, and maybe we're just trying to get some ring time in for these guys. God knows Tim Ashley needed it, and it didn't hurt Billy, so that's the only thing I can figure, because it ain't like they thought, man, these guys are going to go out there and kill it for almost 12 minutes. Let's just make it happen.
Yeah, Billy Travis going over, and we'll see why here in just a few minutes' time. Also on the card, Jerry Jarrett and Tojo Yamamoto over J.R. Hogg and Jerry Bryant. Tojo winning with that judo chop, taking down J.R. Hogg. Epic finish there. That match, 10 minutes and 38 seconds, and I believe that entire match, unfortunately, is on TV.
Hiya, I'm sure he yelled as he gave that chop. And boy, J.R. Hogg just pops in here
he
and
won't
there
go away.
As needed.
Well, what are you going to do when a guy offers to work for free? I guess you just accept it when hey, we saw the Hogs there. They started to get pretty decent, and then one of them leaves and the other one stays, and he's basically used as a job guy for the most part.
He's like the Rock and Roll Phantom on our 1993 episodes where he just somebody's a hole in the card and he just appears. So.
Well, rematch time. The former Southern champ Randy Savage taking on the current Southern champion Jerry Oski. The return clause in the contract, of course. As the match goes on, things get heated. The referee getting in between the two, trying to separate them in the corner, and Jerry Oski losing his cool and arm dragging the referee. But he does not get disqualified. Randy Savage, though, taking the opportunity with the referee down, whacking Oski with Tux Newman's cane, and the Macho Man regaining the Southern Heavyweight title. Title change, guys. 9 minutes and 6 seconds, but I had to laugh. He didn't shove the ref. He didn't clock the ref. He arm dragged the referee. Only Jerry Oski.
Oh, come on, Ray. We've all been there. There's been times in your life where you just got so mad, you were so frustrated that you just freaking arm dragged somebody, Freaking umpire at the ball game or the guy at the store that wouldn't honor your coupon. You just arm drag that son of a bitch and show him his boss.
Well, I got to tell you, I've seen a lot of matches and I've seen a lot of ref bumps. I've never seen one take an arm drag. So that was definitely something new in my wheelhouse. So I got to add that to my list of spots. If I ever go to do some fantasy wrestling writing, I'm going to have a ref take an arm drag at some point. See if anybody catches it. But right now, there's one final matchup on the card, main event. As promised, Bill Dundee returns to town to team with the King, scoring a win over Bruiser Brody and Kareem Muhammad by disqualification. Jerry Lawler going to deliver that patented flying fist drop on Muhammad. When Bruiser Brody senses the end, he attacks the referee. but it was not.
The arm drag him?
No arm drag. Big boot to the face, and then beats the living shit out of the ring because he noticed that ref did not disqualify Oski. So Brody going to drive the point home, beats the shit, mauls the referee, leading to, I guess, a schmoz, and wild chaos ensues throughout the arena. 10 minutes of the match shown on TV, though. Very, very fun.
Yeah. I got so sidetracked with talking about the arm drag in that previous match, I kind of lost sight of the fact that Randy Savage regained the Southern title there.
Ah, yes.
All this back right with the world. I'm
glad you brought me back to that.
Completely dumbfounded by the Oski arm dragging a freaking referee. But yes, Randy Savage is once again the Southern champion. We can breathe easy. All right, good. Now,
so let me pick your brain on that before we go back to the main event. Then, what was the point? Was it just to give this a little longevity, like this whole week? Because we didn't do the title change in Memphis, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know we had that big matchup last Monday night, so we really couldn't do the title change. But why not save the title change for this Monday night? I mean, it wasn't like they needed to do anything. So it's just very curious why Jerry Oski was champion for 6 days.
My theory on that is, like I said, they saw that, okay, we're going to pivot to Lawler and Bruiser Brody. We're going to take Savage out of this equation. The only person we got for him to work with is Jerry Oski. But everybody's going to know that Randy Savage is going to beat the shit out of Jerry Oski. Nobody's really going to care. But what if we threw everybody a curveball and let Jerry Oski win the damn Southern title off him a week before, so that when they have this match, it's actually for the title, and there's, at least people are going to be curious. Well, Savage is going to win it back, and, Savage has a chance to win the title here. And plus, you've put a little bit of steam on Jerry Oski. He's got that going for him. He's now a former Southern champion. He's not just that guy that arm drags everybody, including the referee. He's a former Southern heavyweight champion now, and, that'll mean something, however briefly he's still here. To put interest in this match. Plus, Memphis would just do that shit. I mean, hell, everybody, fuck it, let's do a title change. Why not? So I was just curious of how long he was going to hold it. So to see that Savage immediately took it back here, yeah, that's about right.
Well, yeah, and obviously their matches won't go nearly that long when they get to the WWF later on, Randy Savage and Jerry Allen. But like you said, Oski, a footnote in the history books, he was the Southern Heavyweight Champion once upon a time, albeit for 6 days. We'll go back to the main event now. Lawler and Dundee getting that DQ win. Brody basically plowing down the referee, and the chaos ensuing afterwards. I think it was Tom Branch in this instance, getting mauled here. But 10 minutes shown. And I don't know how long the match went, but obviously they gave us some time on TV to watch and kind of let it unfold. And I believe Brody's going to stick around for a bit still. He's not Dr. D here. Dundee, that's another story. We'll have to wait and see. But there was your main event, another disqualification. We were promised we wouldn't get these any longer. But here it is.
Yes, that's what's crazy is we were promised no more DQs. And here we are in the main event. We get disqualification. And something I don't understand. If Dundee's not hanging around, but Brody is, why would we not let Brody or Kareem pin Dundee, get some heat on this feud? Dundee can go away, and then Lawler's got to bring in another partner. Like, why have this first match end in a DQ if they're not going to continue? I'm never going to not question the booking in Memphis, apparently. It always just completely confounds me, whether it's 85 or 93 or probably whatever year I'm reviewing at any given time. There's just like, why didn't they do this? But, Ernesto.
Yeah, Ernesto in this instance, as we roll on to May the 14th, 1 week later. Of course, Randy Savage, once again, the Southern champion. So the people in Louisville likely a little confused here, but we're going to kick off the show. Adrian Street over Tim Ashley. Billy Travis defeating Steve Constance. And so you may be asking, what's with all these jobs as of late? By Tim Ashley and Steve Constance here. Of course, we saw Randy Savage put one of them down on TV. We've seen them doing jobs on the house shows. And the reason is this marks the end of Constance and Ashley this final week here in the Memphis territory. We bid adieu to the team of Constance and Ashley. They're off to the Mid-South, where one of them's going to get their ass plowed and quit the business forever, and the other one not too far behind.
It's so hard to say goodbye to
copyright.
Yesterday. Oh, yeah, we can cut that out. I don't know if we can continue on with 85 without Constance and Ashley, Ray. They've become such a favorite of mine that's just not going to be the same. I guess we'll forge ahead, but man, it's going to be tough.
Tough indeed. I can't wait to see who they are replaced by here on the undercard. Moving forward is Tojo and Jarrett coming to town to team up, take on, and defeat J.R. Hogg and the spoiler, Frank Morrell. Macho Man Randy Savage, the Southern champion, we get the return clause. Well, Jerry Oski gets one too. Last week here, Tuesday night in Louisville, it was Oski defeating the Macho Man for the Southern title, but this week, zillion trillion to one, I do believe, and the odds are all over for Jerry Oski as Randy Savage scoring another victory, retaining the title this week.
Yes, had to get that win back in Louisville to get everything, for everything to be completely right with the world. We had to right that wrong here where it all began.
I'll do the job this week, but you're doing it next, huh? And that's basically what happens here. Randy Savage beating Oski in the return match. For all I know, they may not have acknowledged the title change in Memphis. So maybe we do the switch again here in Louisville.
You know, I wouldn't doubt that at all. That would make a lot of sense, actually.
It wouldn't be the first time this year we've seen that happen.
No, not at all. I think you're onto something there. I bet that is how that played out. And I think this last match probably gives us a little insight into what we missed from Monday night.
So Monday night, we were wondering what happened in that Fabs PYT match. Well, we get the same match here Tuesday night in the Garden, and it is the Fabs with Tojo and Jarrett in their corner, defeating Norvell Austin and Billy Travis with Coco and Tux Newman in there. So it's likely, since Savage beat Oski again, that we also see the Fabs go over on PYT both night.
Now, it doesn't say, but who do we think got pinned in this match?
Right. Norvell and Travis doing the job. Tux Newman takes the pin, I'm going to guess there, because, well, Ernesto.
That's true. It's a possibility. But
you never know.
Yeah, I got a feeling Coco and Norvell's like, sorry, Billy, you taking the pin tonight, boy.
Well, you've noticed a pattern here. No 2 out of 3 fall matches this week, except for in Nashville. And Nashville was a week behind in the bicycles. So I think that they got to see the Tom Ernesto come out and announce the 2 out of 3 falls deal this week on their television. So like, we got to give it to him one time. And so that's why we got that in Nashville. But we're not seeing that anywhere else. And you might ask, where was the rest of the roster here? There was no Jerry Lawler. That's because the King took the rest of the crew to Monette, Arkansas, Buffalo Central High School, for Jerry Lawler, Lanny Poffo, Kareem Muhammad, and them poor bastard Battens.
Lawler wrestled Poffo, and Muhammad beat the Battens by himself is probably what we saw.
And the Cruisers came to town.
Let's hope so. I like the Cruisers.
Yeah. Hey, man, they're my favorite tag team I've never seen. And also, May the 16th, Thursday night, a pair of shows, Owensboro, Kentucky. The Fabulous Ones coming to town there. And also Thursday night, Mitchell, Tennessee, May the 16th. I have no results. I have no cards for those shows, but I do know there were shows in those towns.
Owensboro, Kentucky. I lived and worked there for a few years in the 2000s, so no wrestling going on when I was there. That's a shame.
That's a damn shame. And finally, guys, wrapping things up, Friday night, a couple of shows, one in Paragould, Arkansas, May the 17th, and the other in Bolivar, Tennessee, at the Central High School. 6 matches on the show in Bolivar, including Lanny Poffo, Tojo Yamamoto, Adrian Street, supposedly Constance and Ashley, though I have no results, Kareem Muhammad, and the main event, going to see Jerry the King Lawler come to town to take on the Southern Heavyweight Champion, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. And of all these shows, wouldn't you know it, the one that I have a couple of promos for lined up right now we're going to listen to, the King and the Macho Man coming to Bolivar.
Friday, May the 17th. I'm talking about at Bolivar, Tennessee, at the Central High School, sponsored by the Quarterback Clubs. And here's a good deal. You can get your tickets now, save $1. And boy, what a night of action it's going to be. You're going to be seeing in the main event Jerry the King Lawler going against Randy Macho Man Savage. And, of course, you know what kind of a fight that's going to be.
Talk to me first right now. You know, if I was going on vacation, I wouldn't go to Bolivar, Tennessee. Do you know that, Lance Russell? I wouldn't go to Bolivar, Tennessee. But no, wait a minute now. I wouldn't go on vacation at any time in my life. No, I don't like vacations because I like to partake in what I'm doing, and I like to do it all the time. Yeah, I do. Bolivar, Tennessee, I'm going to go against the king, who was the queen, that doesn't know who he is right now. But it really doesn't matter, Lance Russell, because just stay hip, man, and nothing will be okay.
Oh, right? Okay, Randy. We'll see you in Bolivar.
Bolivar, Tennessee, you got to be joking. The only reason we are coming to that town is because it's payback time for you, King Lawler. You hurt me. You hurt me bad. I still hurt. But I'm not worried, because you're not dealing with any ordinary hick. You're dealing with somebody with intelligence far surpassing your own. I got a surprise for you, and I'm going to unleash it in Bolivar, Tennessee. And that surprise is the Macho Man, Lawler.
The surprise. Isn't that surprising right now? Isn't that surprising? Yeah. It's not Christmas. You can't open me up, but you can wrestle me. And you don't want to do it in Bolivar, Tennessee.
I think
Friday night.
Bolivar Central High School. Great deal. You can buy a ticket right now and save $1 on that ticket, friend. So it's well worth it. 6 big matches, and the final bout. Now, the other bouts are great, too, but that final one is going to be the king, Jerry Lawler, going against Randy Macho Man Savage. And Tux Newman has said, big surprise in store for you, Jerry.
Yeah, well, it's about time he returned the favor, because I gave him a big surprise last time I got my hands on him. I dropped him on that fat head of his a couple of times, and now you see he's wearing a neck brace. Well, let me tell you something, Newman. If you didn't learn your lesson then, you will in Bolivar if you just get within arm's reach of that ring, brother. Because I'll put this fist upside that fat face of yours so many times you'll need a calculator to count them. Now, as far as Randy Savage goes, Lance, you know the situation. I think most of the fans do out there. I've been begging the promoter every chance I can get, put me in the ring with Savage. He's the man that crippled me. He's the man that tried to end my career, put me out of wrestling for a month, and tried to put me out permanently.
That's right.
But every time it seems like I'm this close to getting Savage, something happens, just like in Jackson a couple of weeks ago. I thought I had a single match with Randy Savage. All of a sudden, it gets turned into a 6-man tag. He tries to hide behind his brother Landy. He tries to hide behind David Schultz. He tries to hide behind Tux Newman. Well, the hiding is done, brother. It's all over. It's all going to come to a head right there in Bolivar, Tennessee, because it's just me and you, Savage. It's just you and I, single match. And that's where it's all going to come down. And when I get my hands on you, I'm going to do the same thing to you that you tried to do to me. As I said, you tried to put me out of wrestling. You tried to end my career. You tried to do me in once and for all. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do to you in Bolivar. I'm not going to finish until you're laying flat on your back.
The Rumble, Friday, May 17th.
All right, so Jerry Lawler coming back for his Southern title. Randy Savage regained the belt, as we all know. Southern title on the line. What an odd city to do localized promos for on the Jackson, Tennessee television program.
Now, I do have to correct you on something here, Ray.
Oh, it's coming. I figured that.
That's Bolivar, Tennessee.
Okay. I knew that was...
You go down there and say Bolivar, they'll run your ass out of town. Bolivar, Tennessee, in the final years of his life, home of Brian Christopher. And for a while, I don't know if he's still there now, but for a while, the grappler Lynn Denton was living in Bolivar, Tennessee somehow.
Okay. Lenny probably would have corrected me,
as was Mike Miller. They were like neighbors 2 streets apart. They're in Bolivar, Tennessee.
Good to know.
Happening place, but if you ever been there, yeah, you would believe that's what it's called.
Central High School had it going on, man. 6 matches come to town there. We got their promos, so, I mean, we had that going for it anyway. We haven't had some localized promos as of late. Last time we knocked out a bunch, and this week we got a couple more, so more to come in the weeks to come, guys. Stay tuned for those localized promos. I know a lot of the listeners like those because it's good times, man, to hear those. You know, when they come to certain towns, we hear certain things said, and it's just kind of interesting to hear these guys ad-lib for the different cities they're coming to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You get a different flavor to some of those local promos, and like you said, sometimes they have a little fun with them, you know.
Yeah, I think Randy Savage said something there along the lines of he would never go to Bolivar, sorry guys, and he said something along like he would never vacation there, he wouldn't do anything there, but he's coming to wrestle the King, and it's happening this week. I assume Randy Savage somehow gets the Duke, or there's a DQ, which there shouldn't be, but something happened because Lawler does not walk out the champion. And that's going to conclude this week here in regional wrestling. That's going to take us into the mid-May of 1985 now. So we're getting close to the halfway mark.
We're getting there. And, you know, I'm happy to report 5 minutes have passed, and I'm completely over it that Tim Ashley and Steve Constance are leaving Memphis. I'm okay with it now. I think I'll carry on.
Yeah.
I don't remember the story. If you remember it, you might could tell it real quick, and if you don't, you can just cut this out of the fucking show.
Sure.
Wasn't there like, so from here they go to Mid-South, and wasn't there something interesting about that happened with them involving John Nord and Mid-South, and it resulted in like Bill Watts just burying. It was like, I don't remember if it was, I guess it was Ashley or Constance. One of them
I
had
think it
like
was Constance.
Yeah, had like the blown spot or something went awry with Nord, and then like Watts like buried him on commentary every week until they just quit the business or some shit.
Well, I think Nord beat the shit out of him after that, if I remember correctly. I mean, it's been a while since I did my little research on that, but I think it was Constance the shittier of the two, right? I believe that's because Ashley lasts a little longer. If you go back and look up results for these guys, they both disappear in 1985. So it's like they got this push here in Memphis. They go down to the Mid-South and see how Rasslin is really run, against a strict boss like a Bill Watts. And it didn't work out for Constance. Quits first. Ashley, I think, makes it into the fall before he disappears. They do not get a push down there whatsoever. But Constance, I think he leaves. I think he packs his bags and leaves that day. And then they proceed to bury the shit out of him on TV for weeks after that. Even a couple of videos they put together of like how real the territory was. A lot of it was showing you the hard hitting stuff, but there was always that constant thing. That guy sucks so many bags of dicks that he ran away. He quit the company. Steve Constance was his name. So it's like, Bill Watts did not like
Steve
him.
Constance pussy, like it would just be random in other matters. Hey, remember that pussy Steve Constance that quit the business just like that Korchenko goof? Yeah.
Oh, Constance and Ashley, what will we do now with these guys? Hey, they had 6 months here to get it straight. And I felt like, Constance never got better. And I felt like Tim Ashley deteriorated as time progressed. So he got about as bad as Constance by the end.
Yeah, he took every time he'd take a couple steps forward, he would take a couple steps back. But he got that mask off of Tommy Gilbert before he left, so they'll always have that claim to fame.
Didn't even get to keep it as a trophy. Tommy made sure of that.
Tommy's like, nope, taking that with me.
Well, guys, we're going to wrap it up here this week. Hope you guys enjoyed another impromptu edition of Regional Wrestling, the Memphis 85 version. We're going to get things back into the normal circulation here soon. Vandal Drummond coming up with more Los Angeles territory. Steve Crawford coming back after he makes that long voyage back from the Iditarod. Sorry, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Jesus.
Up there in the Alaska. I think he's got a couple other states he's hitting on the way back home, but we should be back with more Memphis 77 soon. More Chicago with Richard Vicek on the way. And I have all the notes. Everybody, where is the St. Louis project? It's sitting right in front of me, guys. I've been doing my due diligence. I've been doing a ton of research. You want to talk about, picking something apart? We're definitely going to be doing that from the beginnings. And that's coming up very soon. Just lots going on. Jamie Ward chomping at the bit still to return for Georgia 82. God bless you, Jamie. Yeah, he'll be back soon with that, and we'll be getting a ton of stuff going here, man. I got other ideas, irons in the fire, as some of these smaller projects that aren't going to take as long as the ones we're doing, like these TV shows. Once they're over, we've got a whole new slew waiting on the back burner. And for those of you just looking to do for more wrestling history, right now over on the Wrestling Stoop with Bob Roop, we're dissecting the entire early into mid-'80s of Georgia Championship Wrestling, going through Ole Anderson's book. Bob was there for 2.5 years, the tumultuous 2.5 years during that time period, working as an agent under Ole. We're talking about everything going on, the ousting of Jim Barnett, the revenge of Jim Barnett, and the soon-to-come, the Vince McMahon takeover of TBS.
Man, a lot of fun stuff there getting discussed on Bob Roop Show. My God, you've got so much great stuff happening and in the pipeline for regional wrestling. I imagine we'll be wrapping up 1985 somewhere in 2027.
Well, we hammered this one out pretty quick since the last. I had somebody comment after we posted that last one. I'm so glad you guys are, you're doing this again. I said we never stopped. There's just a lot of projects going on right now, and it's
yeah. It just hit me the other day. I got to look and I'm like, what month are we in? I'm like, May. Like, because I had a thing pop up on my Facebook timeline where like a year ago we announced the 85 project was starting, and I was like, fuck, we've been doing this for a year and we're only in May. It's like, it'll be 2 years before we get through the 1 year of 1985. But such is the timeline of regional wrestling, because, you know, you only had like 1 or 2 of these things going at any one time. Now you've got so many different irons in the fire that, you know,
well, you know, I'll say this to anyone out there clamoring for more. If you're that interested, if you got a endless bank account out there and you want to fund me, if you want to bankroll me getting on here and putting out 7 regional wrestlings a week, hey, look what I do for next to nothing right now. So imagine what I do if I was actually, you know, making a hell of an income out of this type of situation. So if you guys want that many regional wrestlings a week, I can do it. I can make it happen. You just got to support the cause, I guess is what I'm saying.
There you go, folks. The gauntlet has been thrown down. Now you know your mission. Get us a backer, and
let's just keep putting them out.
Let's get some money behind this thing. Ray is putting out a flurry of shows right now for nothing, and man, just imagine if he got some of that mortgage money behind him. Jesus.
Oh yeah.
How it'd be more wrestling than you could listen to in a week, much less put out there.
What happened when Ray Russell got funded? And
Ray Russell got funded and started doing his weekly show with Kane.
Oh, wow.
That's just a random. That's not a teaser, folks. I looked at my wall and saw a Kane action figure on the other side of the room, if you want to know where that came from.
That's got to be Kane.
I don't need rumors to get started.
Yeah, we don't need any rumors of Kane. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, we got a lot going on, though. And Gene, of course, the Retro Wrestling Review. You guys are already heading into the fall. Well, you're in the fall now of 1993. Unbelievable that you're already 10 months in to the USWA 93, and the storylines are fun right now. The heel Vince McMahon is healing it up down there in Memphis. Lots of great stuff there. Always a fun time. And you got some fun call-ins to your show as of late.
Yeah, we put a phone number out there for people to call and leave us voicemails, and we're hearing from all these famous wrestling people. Some will kind of own up to it, and others want to keep themselves a mystery. But you can kind of identify them by the voice most of the time. And yes, the Madness called in recently, and that was a lot of fun. And you know, he's sticking around Memphis, so I got a feeling we may hear from him some more pretty soon over there on the USWA show. But man, you pointed out we are seeing the birth of the Mr. McMahon character right here in 1993. Mm-hmm. In real time, as it unfolds week to week, you see that character forming and evolving. And, you know, a lot of people wondered how he was able to just come right out of the gate with Steve Austin, you know, as Mr. McMahon, and that feud took off. But, you know, he developed that character, fully developed the Mr. McMahon character in the USWA in 93 and 94. And it's a lot of fun to watch it. And he's sending all these, he sends down Savage and he sends down Tatanka and all these different people at different times trying to take out Lawler. So we're having fun with it over there, man. It's very interesting.
Lots going on. And of course, last but certainly not least, the patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Of course, there's always the $5 all access tier for anybody just wanting to support the brand. Lots of fun gifts there for the $5 tier, but the VIP Superfan tier is where it's at now, guys. Talking about all the great video casts attached to the Superfan tier, including the Coliseum videocast I do with Gene. We've covered a lot of ground so far and more to come. The April Fool's Pick'em Time poll just ended, and we'll have to wait and see what happens with that here upcoming in the month of April. But we finished the last Pick'em Time poll. We had a tie, and we're going to be putting out tag team champions before too long. Going to go up next, and the Pro Wrestling Academy with Dan Gennity got another one of those coming as we move into 1976. We also had a couple special request matches we're going to be covering on the next Pro Academy, so stay tuned for that. And Monday Warfare, the Battles Within, the video cast has launched. Episode 1 is now up with special guest John Paz of the two-man Power Trip Empire. Had a blast doing that. Way more fun than I ever expected getting back into it.
Man, I tell you what, like you said, there was a lot of value to the Superfan tier already with, the Pro Wrestling Academy videos and the Coliseum videos that we do, and then we cover the pay-per-views for the, like related to the Grenade and different things like that. But man, Monday Warfare, you came in hot for the first one with John Paz over there. Like I said, man, that podcast has been around forever and is beloved by a lot of people. And he certainly knows that time period, and what a great show you guys put on, and looking forward to. And man, you've talked in the past, and I don't know, I don't always feel like I remember that era fondly, but as I sit and watch that show, it takes me back to that time period when I'm in college and I'm sitting in the dorm room with a bunch of buddies, and we're flipping back and forth between Raw and Nitro, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe I do. Maybe I do have a little more love for this than I remember. And if you're kind of in our age bracket, I recommend giving it a shot and watching it. And you may realize that you do have more love for the Monday night era than perhaps what you remember when you spend all your time like me watching a lot of 80s stuff most of the time.
Right.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, lots of good stuff coming there. We have other things to report. I won't get into it this week, but we have new things coming to the Patreon as well. So, and that involves other video casts. So stay tuned for that. And we did announce, well, first of all, me and Gene going to be knocking out Survivor Series 88. And that's going to air as part of the VIP Superfan tier as well, because it goes along with the Wrestling Memory Grenade 88 project right now. And so Survivor Series 88 coming out in just a few weeks' time. So be on the lookout for that. But coming in the month of April, sometime before WrestleMania 41, just in time, going to whet everybody's taste buds. We went back last November and we covered Survivor Series 87 because I had covered that on the Grenade in the past. And this year, before WrestleMania, I'm going to be covering WrestleMania 3, the video cast. Very excited for that.
My all-time favorite WrestleMania. I'll argue that with anybody. And no, I can't make an argument for it being the best WrestleMania, but it's my favorite, and I don't care what anybody says is their favorite. They're not going to sway me. It just is. Love that WrestleMania for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the tipping point of a lot of things in the wrestling business, and I don't know, man. I'll never tire of that one.
No, it's going to be a fun time. I'm looking forward to covering that from beginning to end, from the Can-Am connection to Hogan slamming the Giant. It's going to be coming here in the upcoming weeks, so stay tuned for that as well. Lots going on Patreon. You don't want to miss it, but for right now, we're going to wrap things up. Gene, if there's anything you want to close with here before we close up the shop.
I think you touched on everything we got going on over here on WrestleCopia, so make sure you check it out, WrestleCopia.com, and for all things related to my USWA podcast, you can check out USWApodcast.com.
Very good, guys. We're going to wrap things up. We'll be back soon. More Memphis 85 around the corner. Until then, thanks so much, Gene.
Thank you.